The Batman is directed by Matt Reeves. And this is a film about the Batman that's really making an effort to not be connected to any Batman that we've seen before. And did Matt Reeves succeed? Stick around. If you're going to go see the Batman this weekend, there's some things you might want to know about it. Okay, so The Batman, once again, is directed by Matt Reeves. It stars Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Andy Serkis, Jeffrey Wright, Colin Farrell, and of course, Paul Dano as the Riddler. So while this was one of my most anticipated movies of this year, I can understand the hesitancy behind it with other people, seeing as how Robert Pattinson, really in the eyes of casual viewers, he's only been in Twilight. If you kind of watched a lot of indie pictures, you've probably seen his fantastic work since, but for the most part, when it comes to franchises or big movies like this, you've seen Twilight, and that's about it. Also, we've had a ton of Batman movies, and some of them are pretty amazing. So really, it's a high bar that's been set, so how can we improve on the Batman? And I don't think this movie is really concerned about improving upon the Batman as much as it is just making a new, very different Batman movie. And personally, I think that's the way to go, because when the bar's already so high, just do your thing. I'll say I liked a lot of Robert Pattinson's work as an actor since Twilight. I think he's done some pretty magnificent films since then, and very magnificent performances in movies such as Good Time or The Rover, and I really liked him in Tenet. Matt Reeves as a director is a guy I really like as well. He made some really great films in the past, including a couple of the Planet of the Apes movies. We have Let Me In, Cloverfield. He's done some really magnificent work. He's always been a guy that's like kind of gone his own way though, like really his entire career. I think as a director, he's kind of not gone with the grain. He's gone against the grain. I really think he succeeded at that here with this Batman movie and making it new. And in this review, my goal is going to be to set your expectations properly for going into this movie. And I'm not even talking about when it comes to how great this movie is or how bad it is. I'm just talking about the mood, the tone, the style, all that kind of stuff, because I promise you your expectations are not quite there, and I'm not even sure I can succeed in giving you the type of thing that you can expect, but what I do think I can do is try to come close. So in this film, the Batman is faced with the task of trying to solve this murder mystery. It really is a murder mystery film. I want to start there. This movie is not an action movie. It's kind of like a thriller, a little bit like Seven mixed with Zodiac mixed with Saw. I've heard a lot of that, but even then, I'm not sure how accurate that comparison is, because in a lot of ways, while those influences are there, there's a lot of originality behind it as well. Like, this movie feels like every bit of it is something new, which is something I very much commend about it. It's something I really liked. A lot of people are going to think, oh, the Batman, the new comic book movie, the new comic book action movie. It's like, no, this is a psychological thriller, murder mystery, suspenseful type movie. It's not a comic book action movie by any means. There is a little bit of action in it, and the action that's there is fantastic. A lot of it's very brutal.
The hell are you supposed to be? Vengeance.
It's got a surprising amount of disturbing imagery, horror, brutality for something that's a PG-13. Matt Reeves is really pushing the limits of what you can get away with in a PG-13 setting, and I really love that about this movie. It feels like it's made for adults. It does not feel like it's made for kids. So if you're going to take the kiddos to see the Batman, you might want to rethink that.
Do the kid a favor. Don't scream.
This film is actually very terrifying at times. I was kind of freaked out going back into my car. I found myself kind of checking in it before getting in the car, just making sure nobody was in there. You guys will see why when you see the movie, but there are some crazy things that happen, and very disturbing and dark things that happen. Before I talk about Robert Pattinson as the Batman, which is kind of like the big thing everybody's wanting to hear, how is he? I'm going to talk about the supporting cast, because I think that there's a lot to say about them. So I'm going to start with Andy Serkis as Alfred. I love Andy Serkis Serkis as a person, an actor. I think the guy just seems wonderful and charming, and I was really excited to see him get a role like this. I don't know that this was my favorite Alfred. There have been some pretty great Alfreds in the past between Michael Caine, Jeremy Irons. Jeremy Irons actually very high on my list as Alfred. I think he does a wonderful job. But what Andy Serkis does bring to this film does feel fresh and new to Alfred. I like that this Alfred feels tough. He feels a little bit more like he's been through a lot, and I like the connection he brings to Bruce Wayne as well in the movie. I think that him and Pattinson have really good chemistry for the most part, and it's a really, really fun watch with those two. But there's something different in this relationship that I won't give away that Andy Serkis just kind of relishes in. He really brings something really cool and fresh to the performance. Colin Farrell is unrecognizable in this movie as the Penguin. If you hadn't have told me it was Colin Farrell, I would have had no idea. So I really enjoyed what he did here. He's actually phenomenal and amazing, and I would not be surprised if he got nominated for a Best Supporting Actor role here, because he is so good. So damn good. It's not as good as Danny DeVito's Penguin though, in my opinion. I just happen to take to that one a little bit more, but I love the mob boss aspect of this one, and it feels very real to this world, and it fits in there perfectly, so I was really happy about that. There's also a Penguin series up and coming with Colin Farrell, and I think it could be HBO's next Sopranos. I mean, this world of the Batman feels very grounded, and Colin Farrell's Penguin is no exception to that. He really is just like a mob boss that feels kind of tough, and I really enjoy that about him. Zoe Kravitz is a great supporting role as Catwoman. I mean, she really brings it. Mostly in this movie, one of the things I liked about her character is she's incredibly relatable, but also they don't really call her Catwoman. She's kind of just referred to as Selina, and I kind of like that. It strips away that superhero facade that we're just so used to and makes it feel a lot more grounded. She's just got an energy in this movie that I can't really explain in words. You just kind of got to see it. It's a different type of Catwoman, but it's also my favorite Catwoman. I know I'm very hesitant to say that, honestly, because we have this Michelle Pfeiffer performance out there that's just so phenomenal and felt so untouchable for the longest time. This time it did get touched. I gotta say, Zoe Kravitz is my new favorite Catwoman. It's my favorite take on the character. She just killed it and knocked it out of the park. So good in this movie. I mean, my God, I love her. She is a great freaking actress, and boy did she bring it.
Boy did she bring it.
I saved this gentleman for last because this is a biggie, and that's Paul Dano as the Riddler. I think he outperformed pretty much everybody in this movie. He is the best Riddler by far. By a mile, he is the best Riddler. I mean that 100% wholeheartedly. He is terrifying in this movie. He's disturbing. He's nuts, and it's very scary to watch him in this movie. Like, every moment he was on the screen, I kind of felt my legs go a little bit numb because you just never really knew what he was going to do next, and they used him so sparingly, and the performance he gave was just so creepy. Paul Dano is a phenomenal actor. I've always loved Paul Dano in There Will Be Blood or Prisoners, and you just know he can nail something like this. And he is so good in this movie. Oh my God, such a scary villain. I was so happy with what he brought to the Riddler. It's so different for this character. It's a fresh take on the Riddler, and it works. It really plays in this movie, guys, and I'm telling you, you will not expect how terrifying and disturbing this performance is from Paul Dano. He is so damn good. I loved every second of it. Now let's get to Robert Pattinson as the Batman, which is one thing that a lot of people are going to be skeptical on going into this movie, especially people that haven't seen his performances in, say, Good Time, The Rover, Tenet, whatever it may be. People are going to be skeptical about Pattinson as an actor, and I get it, but let me tell you guys something. Robert Pattinson is my new favorite Batman. He is so lost in this role. It literally got to a point in this movie where I forgot I was watching Robert Pattinson and just watching this very disturbed man as Batman, and it's amazing. And he gives a take where he's Batman all the time. Bruce Wayne is really a facade. It's a really amazing take, and he's nailed this more than any other actor in the past, and that's my favorite version of the Batman character. It's so good. He's a broken man. He's a disturbed man. He gets just lost in it, and he can just say so much without saying anything. Whenever you see him without the mask on, he's pretty much subdued. He doesn't have a lot of lines of dialogue. He kind of feels very untethered from humanity, and I love that Alfred is kind of that one anchor for him in this, but he also kind of feels like he's trying to get back to humanity. This was a really interesting take on Batman. This is a take I've kind of always wanted to see, and I'm so glad we finally got it here with an actor that can just get swelled in that and just perform it so well and become the Batman that we deserve. No pun intended, but seriously, Robert Pattinson, hats off. You did it, my friend. You are the Batman to me. And I understand it now, and I understand the title of the movie after watching his performance, because this is the Batman. Prior to this, Michael Keaton was my favorite, and I thought it couldn't be touched, but here we are. Robert Pattinson did it for me, and I hate to say it, guys, it's just what it is, you know. Pattinson is the better Batman. I don't really hate to say it. I mean, I rooted for the guy, and I think he really achieved what I wanted out of this. He's just so dark and so lost in this role. It's unbelievable what he did here, and man, it's a really different type of Batman, but one I've always wanted to see. One of the aspects I love about this movie is the fact that it's really a detective story over an action movie. It plays into the aspects of Batman I always wanted to see ever since I read The Long Halloween. I think that this aspect of Batman is really the take I want. There are also things that remind me of the Arkham games that I used to play all the time, which are some of my favorite Batman stories, which we've never really seen brought to film. I love a lot of other Batman movies, guys, but we've never seen it peak. You know what I mean? We've never seen peak top-notch Batman, in my opinion. It's never gotten all the way there to where I wanted it to go from the best Batman comic book stories out there. And this time it kind of brought those elements I always wanted. The detective story, Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne / Batman, always kind of trying to solve this mystery. As an audience member, you're kind of sitting there left trying to piece everything together with him, which I really enjoyed, and I thought that was so cool. I want to talk about the music a little bit too, because Michael Giacchino might have made his magnum opus with the soundtrack. This musical score is really amazing. I have actually listened to the soundtrack multiple times now, and boy did I love it. It's so good. I love all the effort, the work, and it's a part of what really makes this movie work. It's a 3-hour long movie with not a lot of action. Without that score, I just couldn't imagine the pace of it. It just really helps keep things moving. I mean, the story's good. You're immersed in the mystery. I found myself so immersed in the mystery, in fact, but the pace of this movie really kind of comes down to Giacchino's score. He's a composer I've been listening to for a long time. He also did a great job on Spider-Man No Way Home. I think he was underappreciated for what he did there. But this is his magnum opus, and I don't think he'll be underappreciated this time. This score is just so good. Matt Reeves directed the hell out of this movie. I mean, the shots are just on point. Gotham looks very kind of vibrant, but also kind of noir. I mean, it's a very cool take on Gotham. I really like the look of it. I thought that he just knocked it out of the park with the camera work, and a lot of the action sequences, or the ones that we do get, the very few action sequences that are in the film, actually play really nicely because of the camera work. He kind of uses one take for most of them, it feels like everything's just kind of in the frame for the most part. Nothing is kind of being cut too much, you know. It's very, very cool to look at and watch, and very exciting. There's a character in the movie I forgot, which is the Batmobile. But the Batmobile is the coolest Batmobile that we've had so far. The sound design is just astounding, and the sound mixing, it just works so well with that. I love this Batmobile so much. It just played so nicely in the theater when it was kind of getting revved up, and oh, it sounded beautiful. I'm not kidding, it's my new favorite. It's super cool. As much as I love Michael Keaton's and Batman 89, I just love this one so much more for whatever reason. Maybe it's the sounds, but man, is it cool.
It's very cool.
This isn't a movie that I expected to ever get made, though. Let me say that. This is a different type of comic book movie in a great way. This feels like something that came out of the 70s. It's a detective story over an action movie, which is something that I would like to see more in comic book movies nowadays. It feels fresh. It feels new. This is something that a lot of people who probably haven't been into comic book movies but would really like to watch one and watch a new detective story, watch a new murder mystery, watch a suspense thriller, is really going to enjoy, hopefully. Like, this feels like it was made almost for those people over comic book fans, and I kind of love that. I really do. I think that this is a movie that was made for a new audience, and it still has Batman elements that I love from the comics as well. Like, it really does take elements from the comics. The best Batman stories, in my opinion, are the ones where he is more a detective and there's a little bit less action and more of that detective story, and this finally did that for me. And it also kind of feels so original at the same time. It doesn't feel like it's taking anything verbatim from the comics. It's a whole new Batman take. We've never seen Batman like this before. It's a very different type of movie. It's kind of a slower paced movie, but that's very on purpose. It's not boring. I still felt immersed in the mystery. It feels very nicely paced, actually. I actually thought the 3 hours were really, really good, and it makes sense when you watch the movie why it is 3 hours long. There's a lot going on here, but this is really, really fun stuff, guys. I'm telling you. I just don't know how the folks are going to feel who want to take their kiddos and are expecting this Batman action romp like we usually get. This is not that movie. It's so much more disturbing. It's so much more dark. It's a murder mystery suspense thriller. That's the movie that you're getting. So if you're going to go in there expecting that, you're probably not going to get that, which is why I think this movie is going to be very divided amongst audience members this weekend after they get out of it. I think that a lot of audience members are going to have a lot of problems with this movie, and I understand from the perspective of somebody who's just trying to go in to see a comic book movie, a fun popcorn flick. That's not this movie. This movie is a very dark, again, murder mystery, very suspenseful. It's got a lot of horror elements. It's frightening. It's terrifying. It's really, really new, and it's very fresh. It doesn't feel like it's trying to be anything but what it is, which is something else that I really respect about this film. And it kind of has new messages, new themes that we really haven't touched on before, and I think that's the benefit of seeing this movie, is kind of getting to know these characters, getting to really become immersed in Gotham and this kind of danger that surrounds it. That's what this movie is for. It's not for you to come to eat your popcorn and just like go, ooh, explosion, ooh, fight sequence. No offense to anybody who wants that. There are movies out there that'll give you that include Batman in them. This is just not that movie. So I'm trying to be very transparent about that with everybody before they go out this weekend thinking that's what they're going to get, because you might find yourself disappointed. Now, if you like movies like Seven or Zodiac or Saw or anything like that just kind of goes down this murder mystery path, not like a whodunit, but like there's murders happening, we have to investigate. It's kind of this detective story with very dark type elements to that. This is the movie for you. This is what this movie is, and I welcome that. I really do, and I wish that we would have gotten this in comic book movies a long time ago. For the reason that it is so fresh, for the reason that it is so original, for the reasons that it's so frightening and terrifying and dark, for the reasons that it gave me the Batman that I wanted. The detective aspects of Batman are at its peak. For the performances alone, this is my new favorite Batman movie, hands down. And I really have no problem saying that whatsoever. There was a high bar, but this movie, for me, it jumped it. It made something that was more catered to myself, something I've always kind of wanted to see from this Batman world, something that's not really attached to anything else, which also kind of gave it a fresh feeling. This is my new favorite Batman movie, guys. No hesitation, no complaints here. I really feel like this movie is just amazing, and it's going to be a hard movie to top this year. I'm really hesitant to call this movie a masterpiece. That's a grade I will very rarely give out to a movie, but I will say that I was very close to doing so. There are movies I like more. There are comic book movies that are better. Maybe upon a second watch, I'll feel very differently, but for now, I'm going to give The Batman a must go. Guys, I'm telling you, if you just kind of want to kick back, relax, and just kind of get immersed in a detective story that's very dark and frightening, this is a movie for you. Go check it out. I love The Batman. I think it's perfect in everything it tried to do for the most part, and I can't wait to watch it again to get an even better perspective and hopefully piece the mystery of it together a lot more. I know that there are Easter eggs and foreshadowing in there that I definitely missed before the ending came up, so I'm really happy to say I want to see this again. This is a must go. Guys, if you haven't yet, please check out Movie Mornings. It's on this channel as well. We also have a different podcast called Imperial Order, both of which are on the Anorax Entertainment podcast feed on Spotify as well, so make sure you go follow us over there as well. I have been Don Martino. This has been a review of the Batman. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave some feedback in the comment section, share this with your friends, and hit that bell for notifications. I appreciate everybody joining. Please let me know what you thought of the Batman when you go and see it. What are your complaints? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did it cater to you? Was it not for you? Whatever it may be, let us know. All that said, guys, I'm gonna take off. I can't wait to hear your thoughts and opinions, and I will talk to you guys later.